Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new session of Investor Horizons webinar. I'm really happy to have Paul Weber today with us to discuss how to build the optimal venture team to secure funding and for long-term success. I'm Perrine. I'm project manager at the European Business and Innovation Centers Network, EBN. EBN is a partner of Investor Horizon, a project co-funded by the European Commission and Eureka. We work as a consortium of 6 partners to deliver an accelerator program of that can host 500 deep tech companies until the end of this year. We have already in the program 450 companies accelerated, and we have 50 seats left in the program. Please note that the platform is always open for application. We have the next cutoff on May 28. This is the last cutoff of the program. And once you access the program, you stay in the program for 4 to 6 months. If you're interested in Investor Horizon Accelerator Program, please note that the key criteria to be eligible are being a deep tech company seeking a Series A investment. You have to have secured already a seed funding, and your company must be based in a country of Horizon 2020 or a country of the Eureka program. As I said, the next deadline of the program is May 28. If you're interested in knowing more about the application process and everything about the program, we have a regular information session. You can check our website. We have a Q&A session at the end of the month, and you can also contact us for any question. We also have a lot of resources available on the website, online courses on different topics regarding financing and industry sectors. We have a very large community of investors and entrepreneurs hosted by Eurocrates. So if you're not part of the community, I encourage you to join as soon as possible to get all the information about Investor Horizon. We also run these monthly webinars every month, so you can check the next event at the end of May. It's already open for registration. And straight to the point of today, I'm really happy to have Paul with us. He is also a coach in the Investor Horizon Accelerator. Paul is a partner within the Any Change group. He's an expert in sustainable leadership. For many years, Paul has been an expert and a mentor at many startup accelerators and competition. Paul is going to say a bit more about himself in a minute, and he prepared for us a very practical presentation to help you understand how to build your optimal venture team. Paul will have 25 to 30 minutes to present, and as usual, you will have about 30 minutes to ask all your questions. You can start asking the questions in the questions window during the presentation or right after his presentation. And please try to be as short and concise as possible so we have time to go through all the questions. So I'm gonna give you the floor now, Paul, so you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Perrine. I think we just need to switch the presentations if we can.
Yes. Just a second. So I think you're good to go. Yes.
Perfect. So thank you very much, Perrine, for the very warm introduction. And I must say, before I start my presentation, I would really recommend Investor Horizon to all of you. It's really a great program. It's free as well. And I was just on one actually this morning as a coach, and you had 17 experts there on that particular call giving advice to the entrepreneurs. So I would very much recommend that. As we saw, the deadline is the 28th of May, so you have plenty of time to get organized for that. So thank you very much for joining me. As we said, I probably speak for about 25 to 30 minutes. And my focus really is giving you sort of optimal skills, really key skills to help you build your venture teams and to really help you not only hopefully secure funding, but also give you the tools and the advice that I've picked up over the years, really to ensure that your team goes forward, particularly to, through the highs and lows of building a venture. But firstly, congratulations. I absolutely love founders. You've got the guts and the skills to start companies. You're sane enough to know that it's really going to be a fight for survival, but you're crazy enough anyway to think you can succeed. So fantastic to have you here. As I say, I love working with founders. So what is the agenda? Well, I really want to sort of go deeper into, why is the team important? We hear a lot about access to funding and raising funding, but often the team is neglected. The team is going to go through a lot of ups and downs, a real roller coaster of a ride. So I'm going to talk about how important the team is, how to build these teams, how to sustain them, and as I said before, how to foster the relationships with the VCs. And then finally, I'm going to give you some advice in terms of measuring how mature your team is as well. Just very quickly about me, I basically, as Perrine very kindly introduced me, I basically work with teams as a venture coach, both in terms of coaching the teams themselves, but also the individuals. I began my venture building journey working for the Swedish investment group Kinnevik more than 20 years ago, and I was part of the founding team of Tele2 Europe, and then have since gone on to, as you can see, have various positions, including being a board member of Tech2 and Europe Unlimited, one of the key partners here. So please, it'd be great to connect with as many of you as I can through LinkedIn as well. So this session is really going to be very interactive. So what I would like you to do, I've just got a series of questions throughout the presentation, and I would just like you to very, very quickly just write a percentage in terms of what percentage of startup problems stem from co-founder conflicts and people problems. So, what do you think? Do you think this is 10%, 20%? So just to give me an idea here, if you could just put into the chat, what percentage of startup problems stem from co-founder conflicts and people problems. So just give you a couple of minutes just to drop some figures into the chat. So it's good to see a few numbers coming in here, but just to share the figures, the more kind of official figures, actually 65% of startup problems stem from co-founder conflicts and people problems. And this is coming from various sources, for example, the Harvard Business Review, the founder's dilemma. And it's very interesting that all of this research is backed up by the foundings of VCs as well. So as you can see the figures towards the bottom of the screen here, 53% of VCs believe the team is the most important factor. 60% again believe the team was the most important factor in their startup's failure. But interestingly, we're all on LinkedIn, we all have various news sources, and we see the headlines, we see how successful these companies are becoming in our news feeds. We see the unicorns. But interestingly enough, looking at the figure here, 70% of exited investments have either been written off or sold for amount below cost. And given those figures, it's interesting, when I consult my network, particularly my European network of VCs, so many VCs, despite these figures, are still relying on gut feeling and CVs and interviews when they assess a team. So when they're going through the due diligence stage, when they're having those first interactions with the likes of yourselves, still much of it is down to gut feeling and CVs. So of course, there's a huge risk for the return on investment, hence the 70% figure we saw before. Yes, there are some professional assessments which some of the VCs use, but these tend to be very generic and not very focused at all in terms of the venture capital industry or the startup industry. So it's a strange dynamic here that, as I said, you've got such a big risk factor here with the team, yet the VCs themselves are not really investing sufficient resources into this, and there's various reasons for that, which we'll come on to. So again, just giving you a few minutes, again, if you could jot any keywords down into the chat. You know, what makes a successful venture team? What do you think makes a successful venture team? So again, I'll just give you a few seconds to think about that. You know, what is the key ingredient for successful venture teams? So just looking at two pieces of research. The first actually is based not far from where I am in Brussels here, based upon a piece of research from the Netherlands. And this looked at 95 startup teams, and it basically found four key aspects. Not surprisingly, experience alone was not enough to make a team thrive. The team also needed soft skills to truly thrive. And the team needed to really have two key shared aspects. One was an entrepreneurial passion, and the other one was a shared strategic vision as well. So these four aspects, at least on a kind of Benelux level here, were seen to be really key dynamics to making making a successful venture team. And moreover, it was seen that it was perhaps better to have less experience, but at least be have that combined shared vision and passion. That was more important than doing things the other way around. And I can certainly, during my experience, being involved in startups, being on the investor side, being on the consultant side as well, it's definitely something that I would reiterate. When I was part of the early days of Tele2, I was very lucky actually to have Nicholas Stenström, the founder of Skype, as a colleague. And I remember having a discussion about this exactly with him, and he was very much of the mentality, Paul, I'd rather have inexperienced people which together shared that vision than, as I said, to have the other way around. So what we're looking to find here is really a sweet spot between hard skills, experience, and soft skills, passion and vision. So trying to find that sweet spot there. To give you another example as well, I'm just going to call this Clocker. I was based in Stockholm for 5 years, and this is an interesting example here. So on paper, this company, this executive summary looked fantastic. As you can see here, the CEO had great in-depth knowledge from Salesforce, the CFO, Harvard and Bain, the VP Sales, Microsoft. The fourth person was a serial entrepreneur with a very nice blend of success and failure. So on paper, in this particular example, the investment manager, the prospective investment manager, was very excited about meeting this team. But once she had met the team, she realized this team wasn't aligned at all. They basically had, from the different conversations she was having, they had different goals and different alignments. So again, as you can see here, the CEO wanted to do something, the CTO kind of dismissed that. They were not equally passionate about the company. And indeed, the VP of sales even had something going on the side as well. And the CTO was looking out for jobs. So of course, this didn't create at all the right ingredients for for a prospective investor, for a prospective VC to seriously consider investing in the company. And not surprisingly, just a few moments later, or a few weeks later, that company broke up because of the different goals, the wrong alignment that they had for that organization. So experience is one thing, yes, great, of course it's very important, but really the shared vision, the shared passion, being one team is really an essential aspect here. Looking at things more from a US perspective, and you've probably heard of some great research that Google carried out just in 2016, so four and a half years ago. And I want to talk about the research they had, because of course, you know, with the vast resources Google has, with the great, you know, the teams they have, the analytical data they have, they really wanted to try and find out, you know, what makes the perfect team. We've got all these geniuses in the organization, but how can we boil it down and find out, you know, what makes the perfect team? So I want to go into the findings of that. And I also want to highlight a fantastic book called The $1 Trillion Coach, which basically highlights a venture coach called Bill Campbell. And Bill has been very much, during the last 20, 30 years, been right at the beginning of Google, of Apple, really, you name it. He has been there working with the management teams and helping them through, again, the ups and downs of building companies. So let's see what the findings were. Well, firstly, and not surprisingly, the teams themselves were the key fundamental building blocks of an organization. So successful organizations are not made up of individuals, they're made up of teams. And that's such a key thing to emphasize to everybody. The psychological safety was really the #1 thing that the research came up with. And what do we mean by psychological safety? It's basically, on a very simplistic level, it's the ability for everybody to speak their mind, you know, for example, in a team discussion, and know they can say something without the kind of psychological stress that individuals might put them under in terms of, you know, expressing their opinion and raising their points of view. So the psychological safety was really a key thing. Having clear goals was a really key aspect for the team as well. Having meaningful roles was very important, and the reliability of the team members was absolutely critical as well. So being able to rely on your team members. So if we think of, again, the Stockholm example, imagine if you've got 2 people there out of your team of 4 on the senior team side, one of whom is looking for a job all the time, the other one is juggling you know, numerous other jobs as well. You know, how can we really rely when things get tricky? How can we really rely on those members when, you know, maybe, for example, there's a real cash flow problem, you know, a big deal hasn't met? We need to be able to rely on those team members. Another aspect as well, which came across, was that the team's mission would really make a difference. So, you know, we speak about impactful leadership. We speak about being involved in you know, roles that really make a difference. And again, this was seen as really the kind of 5th aspect here of the findings of Google. And Bill Campbell, again, Bill was the coach, you know, with Steve Jobs and the Apple team, and together, as I said, with the key leaders within Google as well. And he had a very similar list here. So, for example, safety, again, psychological safety, meaning, dependability, and impact were very key, you know, mirroring findings that Bill had. And in terms of picking the right teams, just excuse me here. You know, Bill had the following 6 key sort of words that he came up with. And yes, people had to be smart in terms of picking the right players on the teams. And it's not necessarily academically, but in terms of being able to quickly get up to speed and make those connections. And we often see job adverts where, you know, it's listed, you know, be able to hit the ground running. So it's very much in that context, being able to hit the ground running. So that was the first thing. So smart, not necessarily academically, or not just academically, but also the ability to hit the ground running. Of course, working hard, high integrity as well, being able to really not only in terms of integrity in the workplace, but also integrity in terms of trust as well. So again, this reliance on your colleagues. But the grit aspect, and you'll hear this a lot with VCs, so the ability to get knocked down and stand up again. And we see this not only, of course, with building companies, but whether it's sports stars, entertainers, the ability to pick yourself up again, brush yourself down, and get on with it. One aspect, of course, which is dear to my heart is coachability as well. And this is an absolutely key word when you meet venture capitalists. So how coachable are you as individuals, and particularly as a team? Are you going to listen to what a VC or an advisor or any other stakeholders will say to you? This is absolutely key. So will the VC have influence to try and help and shape the journey you're taking? Will you have that openness to learn, to be honest, and to show vulnerability? So this is a really key aspect here. So if you're going into these meetings, into these discussions, and you're not showing any coachability, this will be I wouldn't say an immediate red flag, but this will be a really key aspect. So ideally, in Bill's view, again, with all this amazing research,
Oh, okay, I see Paul is out. Just give us a second to have him back. I'm sorry about this. Paul? 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 Paul, we lost you.
In-house, and of course that's important, so you can do your proof of concepts, you can do your minimal viable products kind of in-house and have something before or without the need to rely on external resources. So I've referred to it here as not just having a team of quarterbacks. You need a diverse set of talented individuals who, woven together, can really build a great team dynamic. So don't overemphasize experience. Look at the skills, look at the mindset, and see what they can become. Where is the potential with these people that you're bringing together within the organization? So don't just look to what they can offer right now. Look to what they can potentially offer in the future as well. So in terms of building long-lasting teams, it's really key to get to know the people. Don't just look at their CVs and skills, really dig a lot deeper, whether you're a CEO, whether you're the CTO, and really understand their strengths and weaknesses. And of course, this goes for any organization, not just a venture company as well. In terms of having those meetings, I think particularly in today's environment where, we sit here in front of our PCs, learn the small talk, build that rapport. it doesn't, of course, have to be really personal, but get to know your team members, so that ultimately these sort of non-business discussions that you're having, and it could be a trip that you've made at the weekend, with your family, with your friends, but build this non-business side of relationship building as well. So again, it's all about building the trust. You're continuously fostering the trust, and you're also understanding people's limitations. So when you're building your venture, really get to know these people, have these different aspects continuously ongoing. I emphasized right at the beginning that to have a strong venture team, to have a successful venture team, it really has to be team first. And immediately a venture capitalist will see whether you're just a bunch of individuals or whether you're a team. So you have to really put aside egos. You have to look at the members combined. Build again this loyalty, this trust, but park your egos. I know there's a tendency that everyone wants to be on a C level, but really think about who's in the right position. Just like if you take a football team, who is really the best person for the best position, regardless of what other people might want to do or where they want to play. Again, realize it's not just about money. So purpose, pride, ambition, these are all vital aspects as well. So be wary of purpose, be wary of pride, ambition, and as I said before, egos as well. Think about, and this is something Apple have been very successful with at the beginning of their journey, think about these first principles. So have a set of guidelines so that when you do get into difficult discussions in terms of perhaps the company's strategy, the next step with product releases, you've got a framework, you've got as I call it here, some transparent truths that you can kind of fall back on, and you can say to the team, well, actually, when we had that team building discussion, these were the guidelines, these are the foundations that we laid, and refer to those guidelines that you set up before. Furthermore, create a culture right from the beginning where operational excellence is absolutely key. So you want, of course, to establish this excellence right from the beginning, and as a leader as well, believe in people more than the people believe in themselves. So push them to be more courageous. So again, continuing on the sort of the journey in terms of building these long-lasting teams, and I'm probably going to see a few smiles, I think, coming onto people's faces here, but tackle the elephant in the room. And whether you're working in a startup, whether it's a big company, whether it's a relationship at home, there's always something, an elephant in the room, which gets pushed along the road. And that's probably a wrong analogy with an elephant, but I think you see my point. So early on, really tackle what these key aspects are, get it out in the open. And if it becomes, as I've kind of bluntly put here, a kind of bitching session, talking about negative issues, do that, but don't dwell on them. Move on as fast as possible onto the next thing. But don't let these aspects fester. Get to the bottom of things quickly. If you have to let people go, then again, do this in a nice way, because we often feel sorry for people that have to leave the venture, but think about the people who are still there as well. You have to maintain the vitality of that team moving forward. So think about that as well. I think, again, just to emphasize one final point on this slide, leaders need to lead. So when things are going bad, the team will look at you even more for decisiveness, commitment. So really make sure in those situations that you lead. And you might put your hands up and say, look, we went to the wrong direction. We shouldn't have entered this market. We shouldn't have released this product, but at least lead, be decisive, be active, and celebrate successes as well. If you have success, celebrate those. So Approaching VCs, and I've just listed 5 key aspects here in terms of key lessons that I've learnt and heard from over the years. So don't just demonstrate visionary teams. So don't just walk in there or send with your executive summary. You know, this is my vision. Really demonstrate as well that you can execute. So really outline what you will do, when you will do it. You know, this action plan is absolutely key. So demonstrate that you can execute as well. Be transparent and be authentic. You know, imagine this or look at this more as a marriage. You are entering a long-term relationship with a VC, and it's a two-way process here. You need to be able to get on very well with that VC just as much or even more than he or she does with you. So be authentic. So I've written kind of rather crudely here, no bullshit, but be authentic. So if you do a kind of fake dance, if you do, you know, you mentioned fake figures, you will get found out. And we spoke about trust before. That trust, of course, will diminish very, very quickly. So be transparent, be authentic, do your homework as well. I'm amazed how many CEOs approach VCs and ask questions where, you know, most of it is already on the website. So of course, if you do that, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot right from the beginning. So, you know, it's no good approaching a VC, say in the Netherlands, if it doesn't have the mandate to invest in a company in Greece, for example. If it's made it very clear that its focus is B2B and you're a B2C company. So again, do your homework. That's really key. Build a relationship and stay in touch with the VC. So you might be early, but build that relationship now. I'm actually helping a company in Germany with a few VCs, and they are at least 9 months away from being suitable for VC investment. But already they've had a series of discussions and they're building trust, they're building confidence already, and they've kind of put themselves in the kind of one to watch window with this particular VC. And of course, they can then sort of back up what they said they would do with strong evidence that they've done it. So they're already building a relationship, they're already building and establishing confidence before that. Just to give you an example of a great VC that I know very well, one in the Netherlands is Neurion. And Neurion, I would really recommend that you get in contact with them. They really have excellent experience in terms of building great teams. So neurion.nl. So the key questions that you need to ask yourselves, and of course all of you on this call have different maturities in terms of the duration of your teams. But we've already seen from the previous slides all the different things that you have to think about in terms of building that team and having the right composition of team. And this is even more difficult when you think of the growth, speed, and uncertainty, these dynamics that you're faced with when you're building your company. So you're really going to have to accept these aspects and prepare for the inevitability of change. So the HR side of your business really needs to grow at the same time or in line with your business. And many organizations, many ventures forget that. So again, just a sort of final quick question for you. And if you could drop this again in the chat, I would appreciate that. If not, then just in your mind. So when you think of your team on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think your venture can handle growth, speed, and uncertainty? You know, do you really think you have the players on board to handle that? Do you think it's balanced? Do you have the right group of people there? So again, I would be interested to know that, with a 10, of course, being a firm yes. So just give you a couple of minutes to write a figure down there. So what I'm doing on a more personal level, together with a few VCs and some partners in the Netherlands, is we're actually trying to help venture teams to really discover, as the previous question stated, how strong is my team to really ride the roller coaster of building an organization. And we're basically taking the well-known Lencioni model and combining that with a more up-to-date model of change, which is called the Z model. And we're basically looking at three components here. We're looking at the team relationship, the team complementarity, and the team dynamics. So we're answering key questions like, how well do the team members know each other? Are the team members strengthening each other? And how well can the team handle challenging situations? And we are doing this, as I said, together with VCs to really help them during this due diligence phase to get a better understanding of the team in front of them. And we want to do this for you as well, so that the venture teams themselves can understand, okay, who are we missing? Are we strong enough? Which changes do we need to make? And just to give you an example of the sort of information that we're coming out with here. So you can see a series of kind of spider diagrams. There's various representations that we can show, and we're looking at, as I said, relationship, complementarity, team resilience, all of these factors. So again, the VC can have a better handle, the venture teams themselves can have a better handle on how strong are we in terms of going forward, and obviously basically reducing the risk. So going back to those opening slides I had, where we saw that many of these venture teams are failing because of the people side, naturally the VCs want to try and strengthen this assessment side, as opposed to relying, as I said, quite heavily on gut feeling and experience. So that's really, they're the main points that I wanted to cover, and I'm really looking forward to your questions now. If you would like me to, through a sort of complementary Investor Horizon, I can speak to you about the team analysis, how you could run your team through the team analysis. Of course, for coaching as well, I'd be happy to discuss that. So please do drop me a line, either through my email or, of course, through LinkedIn. So thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Thank you so much, Paul. We lost you at a point. I don't know if you noticed. I don't think you noticed. We had a short technical problem, but for the audience, be sure that we will share the presentation after the session. So if you want to ask questions, I encourage you to type the questions in the questions window. We received also many questions before the session. Paul, to start with the recruitment of new talent, what do you recommend to find the new talent? And because we often hear that it's good to look at the network you already have, or do you recommend going straight to a professional firm for recruitment?
Well, I think firstly, an obvious thing to say is really, what is the budget that your organization has? So, assuming that you're a startup, I guess going to a professional firm of headhunters would perhaps be challenging for you. LinkedIn, of course, is perhaps in the middle here in terms of, yes, you have to pay, but it's obviously much more attractive. I think there's combinations, there's pluses and minuses for both avenues. So if you can get people through your network, that could be great, particularly if you've got time constraints, you need someone very quickly into your organization. If someone can refer them to you, someone that you really trust, then that's great. But of course, the other factors I mentioned as well still apply. Will these people fit? Are they going to be committed? All of these aspects still apply. So it's a combination of cost, how much time you have to do this, etc.
When we also have many attendees asking about the definition of the team, because I guess, do you include also in the team the board of investors, the business angels at the start of the company, and the advisors coming in also for support? And how do you recommend adding external expertise when industry expertise is necessary?
Yeah, thank you, Perrine. So again, it's very much a question of the fit. So, you know, what is my definition of the team? So in this presentation, my definition of the team has been really the operational side of the team. So those people on a day-to-day basis who are really, you know, with you building the team. But of course, it's very important that the wider team is very much fitting in with the journey that you're setting, you know, that you're embarking upon as well. And this is why I emphasize that when you're choosing the venture capitalists, you know, really make sure that there's a fit here. You know, you're probably going to be on a journey with them, you know, perhaps up to 5-7 years, again, depending on the industry that you're in. So you need to make sure that you're feeling very comfortable. Again, I refer to this psychological safety that we had, you know, that you can pick up the phone and you can be very honest, you can be very transparent about the, you know, the good news and perhaps the not so good news that you're having. Again, you need to be able to feel that you can trust and rely on this wider company that you have. So again, if you're, you know, when you're submitting your executive summaries, making your presentation, you emphasize the advisory board there. Again, be honest about how much time these people have to get involved in your company and what skills they have. Again, there is a tendency to see a kind of great list of maybe Nobel Prize winners, but you know, how active are these people in the organization? I've even had the situation where, you know, I've approached one of the people that I've seen listed as an advisor, and they haven't even been aware that they're listed as an advisor. So the fit there, the complementarity, not only with the operational team, but the wider team as well, is very, very important.
Thanks. How important is the industry experience of the team?
Well, I think, you know, the industry experience is very, very important, but as I emphasize as well, it's not just the only thing. So again, it's this combination of hard and soft skills. I think it's going to be, of course, very hard to you know, win a discussion, win funding from a VC if you can't just demonstrate those industry skills. But at the same time, you know, you might be creating a new industry, creating a new opportunity, and then you're perhaps reliant more on associated experience, so perhaps more general business experience, more general IT experience. So again, it's part of, you know, we hear it a lot nowadays in terms of storytelling. You know, how can you weave it all together so that that hard experience you have is transferable, but you're also backing up with the soft skills you need as well to be a successful company.
Paul, in a startup requiring a long technological development journey before reaching the market, how do you recommend approaching the evolution of required skills? Should the final CEO be recruited at an early stage?
Sorry, I missed the word before CEO.
Should the final CEO be recruited at an early stage if the startup has a long development journey ahead of it? Should
yes, I would say, yeah, I would certainly say the earlier you can get the key people on board, the better, and you know, regardless of the function they might be in. So, you know, the more that you can build the team, the more that they can trust each other, get to know each other, really rely on each other, the better. So I would certainly say the earlier the better. At the same time, of course, and this is where the maturity and this is where the parking of egos comes into play. You know, there are certain individuals who are very good at building and starting companies and less good at actually, you know, managing or going up to the scale up stage of those companies. And it's recognizing that, again, as I said, with the sort of team of quarterbacks, it's making sure we get the right people in the right roles at the right time. So Yes.
Sorry. Please be short in your questions because I won't have time to go through all the questions. What is your opinion on outsourcing the R&D, on fully outsourcing the R&D, for instance?
Yeah, of course, this is a very sort of topical question. I think you cannot outsource all of it. You're going to have some of that in-house. Of course, that's going to otherwise be seen as a big risk factor if you're a VC. If you're going to invest into a company, but perhaps all the R&D or the technical know-how is outside of the company, there needs to be a very good explanation, again, going back to the storytelling, a very good reason why you might be doing that. And of course, an obvious one might be cost. You might be in a very sort of expensive city or market, and you know that if, for example, you do that in Kiev, in Sofia in Bulgaria, maybe you can do that far more cheaply. So again, if you weave that into the right story, then yes, it could be sold, but you need to, as a VC, you need to, of course, understand the risk involved and look at it from their perspective.
Paul, we see in your profile that you have experience with women empowerment and women in tech. One of our participants is asking, her company is leading by a woman. Can it be an issue talking to VCs and for a team working under the lead of a woman?
Well, absolutely not, no. And I would say it's the opposite. If you actually look at all the data out there, the facts speak for themselves, and actually women leaders are more successful in general, regardless of the occupation or the vertical than men. So again, if you take the composition of the team, having that right balance, not only of skills, complementarity, but the diversity aspect is key. So definitely not. Don't ever think because I am a certain gender, coming from a certain background, that I can't do it. Definitely not. And it will be seen as a positive rather than negative.
Thanks, Paul. Would you recommend for an early stage startup to hire a fundraising consultant with proven success, managing and leading fundraising?
Well, I guess I would say that because this is something that I get involved in as well. But I think just to I think the answer is yes and no, because it depends on your timing, it depends on your budget as well. Of course, it depends on the agreement that you can set up with that consultant. Are they able to do that on a pure success fee basis? Obviously, that's more attractive than if you have to pay that person a retainer. It depends on all those elements, because if you are very well networked yourself and you have those connections, fantastic. But of course, you have to balance up the fact that building your company, focusing on the market, focusing on the product, it's going to take a lot of your time. And if at the same time you have to fundraise, if someone is there who can help you to open doors quickly, really genuinely has those relationships, then I would recommend working with someone to do that. And again, going back to Invest Horizon is a great vehicle for opening those doors and getting those recommendations into the VCs.
What is the right role of a CEO in terms of expertise, tech, business, sales? How would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you're looking for a blend of all those aspects. But as I said, the composition of the team, if you've got a very good, strong balance across the team, so you've got, I sort of said before with a team of quarterbacks, and I referred to, when I founded a company, and we were mainly MBA type guys. So yes, of course, the CEO ideally should be able to front the company. He or she should be able to be very comfortable on the market with sales of course they need to be able to talk the technology as well. And if they can't sort of operate on all the levels they need to, then either, again, they need to be, you know, referring to Bill Campbell, they need to be a smart, and they need to be able to hit the ground running and learn those skills very, very quickly. Or, of course, you're going to need to involve other people in the company. But generally speaking, the CEO should be able to talk the talk, and you know, whether it's finance, sales, technology, they should be able to you know, interplay between those.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have any other questions? I'm talking to the audience. I have a last question from one of the attendees. Can the age of the co-founders, can it be a problem when talking to VCs, like either being too young or too old, or how do you manage this?
It's thank you very much for the question. That's an excellent question. So, you know, some VCs, I've certainly seen that they have a tendency to want to shape the you know, the founding team, and there is a tendency I've seen that, you know, if the individuals are perhaps in their 20s, early 30s, there's at least the perception. Again, we go back to coachability. There's a perception that they can mold and shape these individuals more than someone, you know, more easily than someone who's perhaps kind of, again, there's a perception that they're entrenched in their, you know, 50 plus thinking. But I think the reality is, and again, quite recently, there's been a lot of research showing that there's many individuals starting companies in their 50s, in their 60s. So perhaps they've already had a, you know, a successful corporate, perhaps, you know, traditional corporate type career. They've come out in their 50s, in their 60s. You know, they've got great networks, experiences. Perhaps financially, of course, they're in a better position. And these people are really very much a growth sector in terms of raising funding as well. So to answer the question, I wouldn't say there's a particular kind of stigma if you're a, you know, 55, 60-year-old, 70-year-old entrepreneur. But I think just be aware, particularly on that key kind of coachability question, that the VCs may, you know, emphasize that even more with someone who's over 50, and really, you know, make sure that they are open to, you know, new ideas, and are being able to be steered accordingly. So it's a combination, but I think if you think about particularly sort of technology companies, yes, there is a tendency that you know, younger individuals in their 20s will be seen as the kind of company builders. But again, it's wrong to make generalizations, because it does depend on the sector, and there's some fantastic entrepreneurs out there well over their 50s.
Okay, that's a great ending. Thanks so much. Do you have a last practical tip or note for our attendees on this question of the team building before we wrap up the session?
I would, you know, just as I emphasized at the beginning, I really admire your courage, you know, your guts and skills to start something. And I would, if any of you would like to reach out for any, you know, support or practical advice, you know, particularly going through the team analysis software that we're developing, you know, I would be delighted to guide you through that. But I think just, you know, just perhaps as the final kind of takeaway, build these relationships early with the VCs and be very authentic with them. So, you know, as I said, no bullshit, just be yourselves, and think about this as a relationship. You know, think about this as a relationship with your girlfriend, with a friend. You know, one of the VCs I know very well, it's quite funny actually, because he was invited to the wedding of one of his young portfolio CEOs, and that company went on to you know, be worth 2 billion euros now. So that is the intimacy in terms of building that relationship. So have a relationship with a VC, build a relationship with a VC who's genuinely there for you when things get tough. So don't just leave, you know, in terms of communication, don't just leave the bad news for the the board meetings every quarter. Build a relationship where you can really rely both on your VCs, but also your wider advisors as well. And I wish you the very best for the future. And as I said, if you need any advice or support, then please do drop me a line.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks to everybody for joining this session. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do give us a bit of feedback as usual. It takes just a few seconds. The next event will be at the end of May. We talk about blockchain. And I wish you all a very nice end of the day. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you, Paul. See you soon.
My pleasure. Good luck, everybody.
Ciao.